I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 8:32 a.m. Purpose of this meeting is our quarterly department head reports. You all have gotten copies of all the department reports for the quarter, so to all gathered, thank you all for doing that today. I appreciate it. And as we've said in the past, we've done a couple of things. One is to shorten up these presentations, except for the ones that are naturally longer, like Parks and Rec, Public Works, maybe Police. And I have to say, going through that has made life a lot easier, hopefully easier for you guys to prepare, so I appreciate that. And as before, we're going to try to do kind of half the group each quarter in terms of live presentations. But if you guys have any questions for any of the department reports that are not presenting today, well, I'd be sure and ask those that folks are gathered. So without further ado, first up is going to be, who did you?
Joan needed to go first.
Joan needed to go first. So Town Treasurer, Ms. Henderson.
Thank you for letting me go first. Everything's pretty self-explanatory in the report. We're at 70.4% of budget after 6 months. I have the yield curve, if anybody wants to see it, straight from this morning. It's pretty flat through one year. The only thing I could add to what we've seen is that I have done one T-bill in January, which doesn't show up on anything yet right now, because this is the month that money comes in. At the end of the month, I'll be laddering up another 45, but with Jen's permission. But as I said, there's 5 million on now, but we ran through our ladder in the middle of December. So everything I think is pretty self-explanatory. Any questions?
Where are you keeping the money in anticipation of your next ladder into T-bills?
Most of it, there are a couple of places that I'd grab it from. Most of it would be coming from our M&T interest-bearing account, which has about 36.5 million in right now. And again, this is pre all the taxes in. You can ask Kathy how much all of it's in. But there's 36.5 in there now, earning about 410. The last T-bill I did was 416. Which was a 2-month T-bill. I am still planning on keeping everything short within our 6-month period for 2 reasons. One, that's where the rates are. And the second is we want to, I want to make sure we can recognize income on a more steady cash flow basis.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, then the only other thing that came up in our budget discussion of the preliminary town administrator budget was that when we have the discussion about the Treasury budget, just a couple of things, being able to look back at sort of projected versus actual earnings for Treasury for the past 5 years, just to take a look in terms of what was budgeted and how it turned out, your budget. And then second would be for the proposed budget next year, to just see the math about how you do it for our own education, so that says, look, here's my funds flow in terms of cash coming in and being expended over the period of time, and here's how I'm placing it in my assumptions about interest rates, so we could just see kind of how you get to the $2 million number. The only reason is just because it's obviously a large drop off from last year's budget, which makes sense given the changes in interest rates, but just so that we could get comfortable with the math, that'll help us.
I can answer some of that now. The first part is whatever Munis can give me for the last 4 or 5 years, I can give you. So
okay,
that's against budget versus what we earned. In terms of the 2 million, I'm hoping that will go up. Jen and I have decided that we're going to, first of all, I don't do anything without consulting her first. So I'm hoping that will go up a little bit, but we had to come up with a number. The original math for doing that is we thought there'd be 4 decreases in interest rates over the end of last year and the beginning of this year. I don't know if that's going to happen. And that's really the conundrum, because I've got some very conflicting variables. And even if you read the journal, you've got banks saying they're going up, you've got banks saying they're going down, I should say bank analysts. But that's the 2 million, I'm not sure will be the actual number. What will be the actual number we'll probably come up with towards April. And I'm hoping it will be higher.
Okay.
so I can answer most of that now if you want more detail on it.
Yeah, just what, I'll let you and Jennifer kind of work out the detail, but for us to be able to just see the math, how you got there for our own edification, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's taking the way I do it is I take every investment and lower it by what I think, and again, this was at the time, this had to be done in December.
Yeah.
So that was the 4 interest rates, and it was lowering every investment by, I was assuming a 25 basis point cut, so by 1%. But that's how the math works on all of it. And that's where we came up with the 2 million. And again, right now, I think I put in my report, I'm doing this 18 years. This is the toughest year to project that I've ever seen, because I really don't know what's going to happen. And nobody else does either. I've talked to a whole lot of people. But right now, rates are holding, and the goal is always is to make as much money as I possibly can, safely.
Which we appreciate.
Yeah. So.
Other questions for Joan, please?
Yeah, Joan, I think for these quarterly meetings, could we get the latest statement of where the assets are?
Yep, I've got it for you. I sent it to you, but I can give it to you right now.
Okay, but I think just...
You were the only one who asked, so I printed a copy for you. Okay. But I can give you all this.
Thank you.
Yeah, and in fact, that's a good suggestion. We'll just have that schedule attached to your quarterly report when we do that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay.
The issue became, and I don't want to go into it in this session. I'll be happy to go into it if we had a special session, because there's some personnel issues involved.
Understood. Yeah.
I was trying to... This was getting weaponized,
Yeah.
and I didn't want that to happen.
Understood.
So, but you've got it right there.
Okay, thank
Other
you.
questions for Joan? Joan, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back up to the top of the list, Mindy, Health Department.
Good morning. I am going to just kind of walk you through my top 5 and provide a little more detail than I did in the report that I gave you, but I'm happy to say that we're fully staffed. Miranda seems to be our new health sanitarian that started December 3rd. December 2nd, pardon me. She is really catching up with all of our ways here in Darien and our policies that we have in our health department. She comes from a larger health district, so I think her feedback to me has been nice that everybody is in one building. So if she has a question, she goes up to zoning or building, which is really nice feedback, I think, how well we're able to communicate in this building. So the Heart Saver First Aid CPR AED training was offered to town hall employees. There were several people that took advantage of this, thanks to Post 53 for putting on that training for us. And one new addition to that was the Narcan administration training was a component of that. And during this quarterly time, also the health department received an allocation from the state as part of the Leave Behind program. And we were able to push that out. We strategically placed those in all the AED units throughout town hall. We were able to offer some to the library, to the depot, to the police department, and the library. The YMCA also, I'm sorry, that was the last one. And we kept a few behind in my office, so we're going to place the AED units at the beach when that area of our town becomes more utilized. So community mental health, the health department still participates in the mental health task force. One new thing that we are going to offer with Allie, and I'm sure Allie will talk about this, is the QPR training. Our public health nurse has become nationally certified to teach that. And I like to say that QPR is like CPR, but it's for mental health emergencies. So basically, to be able to offer this to people to become certified is a way, kind of a stopgap. It's a way to instill hope and reassurance before emergency people can arrive. So it's kind of like just providing that assistance until help is available. So I think that really is an easy way to kind of understand what QPR is. And we're still offering mental health first aid, which was just done last week in a couple of sessions. Very well attended. I'm sure Allie will speak to the participation in that forum. The temporary event process. I think 6 months ago you heard me talking about the difficulties of allowing food vendors to come into town that we had to vet. And we had to turn away trucks, and we had to turn away others that wanted to participate in some of our outdoor events. So we're kind of redoing that program, forms, looking at what we're requiring from them, certifications, list of food items. We want all of this so we can really take a good look at who wants to come into town and serve food for our residents. So that's we're also creating a guidance document. I've assigned the 2 health sanitarians to develop something. It's a quick and easy cheat sheet. If someone wants to come in and set up food and serve at a temporary event, what are the minimum things they should have? Thermometers, a temporary hand washing setup, those kind of things. So we're probably, I would say, 90% ready to drop that new program. And I've met with Parks and Rec once because their program seems to be growing and growing every year. The amount of programs being offered, which is wonderful, and the amount of food vendors that are wanting to come into town. So another project for this year that has started in this last quarter is restructuring the Advisory Board of Health. Their original charge in 2008 is very different from where we sit right now. So, we're looking at that. We're looking at what should be the mission and vision of that particular board moving forward. So I'm still working on that. And I think I would be remiss if I don't comment on the amount of respiratory illness that we're seeing in town. And I think this is a good message for the public that it's not too late to get your flu vaccine. It does take 2 weeks for that to really build up the immunity in your system. So there's still time. We tend to see a lot of cases in February. So that typically is when we see that spike, although it's been a steep incline for a couple of weeks now. So we are tracking those cases. We are hearing about them in the community. Public health has various tools that we use to monitor this. Not only is it what is reported, but what we're hearing in the community, ER visits, that kind of stuff. But you can see that correlation there with what the reports are saying. And another tool that I've been following that you may or may not have heard of is wastewater surveillance. So that is a fairly new public health tool, but if you line those up with hospitalizations and the surveillance in wastewater, they are like parallel. They are completely up. But again, the data we collect is from multiple sources, and they're all trending that we're really hitting a peak. And this is not unusual. This is the time of the year where we see all these respiratory illnesses. We see a lot of norovirus, which spreads like wildfire, especially in closed settings. So I just wanted the community to be aware of that. If you're sick, stay home. Be diligent about washing your hands. All of those good practices we should remember this time of the year.
Thank you. So the Narcan administration kits, they work like AEDs, the automatic external defibrillators?
So those Narcan administration, they're kits, and there's 2 doses in a kit. And basically there's instructions right on the back. We've provided some information in them as well, but it's a mist. It's like a spray. And if you see someone that, presents as having an emergency, there's other signs and symptoms you can tell if someone needs that. It can be administered that way.
Okay. I love the idea of pre-qualifying food truck vendors. That's a great idea, so that if they sign up, as long as you can maintain that they're qualified, I think it's terrific. That's a great idea. And then just building on your point about the Advisory Board of Health, I had a meeting with you and Kevin Cunningham to kind of kick that effort off to try to reimagine that and get it to be more aligned with the priorities that you have and that the town may have. I think that's a great idea. And that's part of this overall committee effort that we have with multiple groups in town to try to reset all that where it works a little bit better for us. So certainly more to come on that, but 2025 is going to be a big year for resorting all that, and we'll get to that as the year progresses. So thank you for that. And then, which were the 2 new establishments that opened for businesses this quarter?
So we had Emilio's and Cosmo.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So the Commons, and then the one in Good Wives.
Okay, new businesses, get out there and spend money, thank you. And then I got my flu vaccine last month, so I highly recommend that. That's something that always has helped me.
And that's one thing they're looking at is whether, it's a prediction, right, of what is going to be the dominant strain for the season. So there was a circular letter that came from the State Health Department on Friday, and it talked about subtyping. So we're seeing a lot of influenza A, but we don't know when you start thinking about subtyping, is it H1N1? Is it, which strain particularly is it? And does that vaccine provide coverage? It's going to provide coverage across the board because your body's going to recognize it, but, more to come. We don't know till we're on the downside.
Terrific, thank you. Questions for Mindy? Monica?
Mindy, on the guidance document, can you put me on the list to receive that when that's finished?
Sure. Yep.
And your foodborne, There was a little pop there. Do you find that from wastewater, or how do you hear about those cases?
Foodborne, the reportables?
Yeah.
So those are reportable cases, so they have to be seen at an emergency room, be hospitalized.
Okay.
So, that's severely underreported. The
Right.
statistic from the CDC is 1 in 6 people a year will experience a foodborne illness.
Okay.
A lot of that stuff just doesn't go tested and not reported. So, you always have to keep that in the back of your mind, is that these are only reported cases. And we have a program that we participate with Yale University, and they actually will interview food cases. So if somebody is positive for Campylobacter, for example, they actually go through that interview, like an epi interview that they do, and they enter in the statewide surveillance system.
Other questions for Mindy? Terrific, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, next up is Susan, Human Resources.
Good morning. So the first page of my report is all about recruitment, as usual. And of course, the first one is our most exciting thing since the last time I spoke to you, which is we've filled the position of our new town administrator with Jen Charneski. Just a really brief summary of that process. It was a nationwide search, and we did get a total of 21 applicants for that position, which was a lot more than we expected. And of those 21, 13 were actually really well qualified. So congratulations to Jen, and doing this nationwide search really just solidified the fact that Jen was our best choice, because we had a lot of applicants, and she was the best one out of all of them. So what that has done, however, for me and for the rest of us, is left an opening in the finance department. So now our big recruitment right now is for the director of finance. We did post that position on January 8th. It's open till the end of the month. And after that, we are doing that one in-house. So once we get all those applications, we'll start going through that process of interviewing. And then the rest of this page is all the other positions that we've recently hired, which, we've had some positions that have been hard to fill since I've been here that are now filled. So hopefully that's the end of that one, senior center. Yeah. And then on the next page is the top 5. Really the only thing, the big thing on this, and I didn't put an industry trend section in here because the first of those top 5 is kind of what the industry has been talking about here in Connecticut, which is the Connecticut paid sick leave and the changes that were made to that as of January 1st. Connecticut has had a paid sick leave law for quite some time, and it really, what it did was guarantee every employee, whether they were part-time or full-time, except for seasonal, they were able to earn sick time, paid sick time, at a rate of 1 hour for every 40 hours they worked, up to 40 hours a year. That changed on January 1st for a few reasons. One was that they changed the amount you earned. It's a little bit faster now. Instead of earning 1 hour for every 40 hours you work, it's going to be 1 hour for every 30 hours you work. Still a maximum of 40 hours that you can earn altogether. But the big difference and the difficult difference is that they changed the rules around how you can use this sick time. It used to be that you had to use it if you were sick or if a family member were sick. Now it's still if you're sick or if a family member is sick, but the definition of family member has been widened to a point where it could be your next door neighbor if they feel like family to you. I'm not even being sarcastic. It's very wide open. Also, another reason that someone could use it is for what they're calling mental health wellness or mental wellness days, which could be anything from, having to just take the day off to having to go get a massage or whatever makes it's really wide open. And then the other part that's making this very difficult for us to deal with is that employees don't have to give us any kind of proof of why they took the day off. So even though they have all these rules around what you could take the time off for, we have no way of verifying it. So it's going to be very difficult. And CCM did put a group together to kind of lobby against that piece of it. Nobody's upset with the fact that people are earning paid sick time. That's a very good thing. But it's this very loose usage rules that are going to be difficult. And so they did put a group together that I know is up in Hartford trying to see if they can change that piece of the law. But as it stands right now, that's the way it is. So it used to really only apply to our part-time people because our full-time people were already earning more than that amount of sick time, and so we don't have to give people an additional week of time off. We just had to make sure they got at least a week of time off. So with the former version of this law, all of our full-time people were already fine and covered, and this didn't affect them. Now, this still doesn't affect them with regard to the accrual of their sick time, but it does affect them with regard to their usage. So we are obligated now for every single employee in town to allow them those same usage policies for those first 40 hours of time that they take off in a year. Meaning we can't ask them for a sick note, we can't deny it to them, even if they call in last minute, because they also don't have to give us any kind of notice when they need to use it. So that's a challenge that HR departments across the state are dealing with right now. So that was my first bullet in my top 5. The second one is about a wellness initiative that we're doing that I'm kind of excited about. We get wellness dollars every year from our insurance company, and with that we can do any kind of wellness initiative for our employees that we feel we want to do. And in the past we've done things like, one year we did a hydration challenge, last year we did a summer food recipe challenge, and people would earn prizes for doing certain things, which is fun, and everybody can participate. Although we only ever got, I would say, I think the biggest amount of participation we got last year was about 50 people out of 150 full-time employees, which is actually pretty good. But this year we're going to actually do something a little bit different, and it's a program called Slim Nation, and it's a nutrition coaching program that a lot of different towns have been bringing in to their town using their wellness dollars. And what it is our employees will actually get a personalized 3-month nutrition coaching program that includes customized meal plans and stuff like that. The goal is to most often lose weight, but sometimes it could be about getting your blood pressure down. Sometimes it could be about getting your blood sugars down for people that are diabetic. And so the difference is that we can't, of course, everybody can't do it. It's relatively expensive. But with our wellness dollars, we can afford to take care of about 15 to 16 employees. And so we had, the consultant is doing online seminars to introduce our employees to the program. We had the first seminar, and I am requiring that people take the seminar or view the seminar before I will allow them to sign up for the program, just to make sure they know what they're getting into. They can kind of see the person they'd be dealing with, because it's a live seminar, get a feel for his personality and stuff. And we had our first seminar last week, and 7 people signed up after that seminar. We're having another seminar on Thursday. If we get another 7 people, that's pretty much exactly where we wanted to be as far as the number of people we were going to try to accommodate. If we do get more than 15 people or more people that we can accommodate, we'll have to do a lottery system to see who can participate this year. And that's the way a lot of towns do it across the state. And what will happen is, if we can't accommodate everybody this year, then hopefully next year, we can accommodate those people. We wouldn't let people do it more than 1 year in a row. The rest of the stuff in my report is not all that exciting. So, any questions?
This is one from me. You're now offering a Roth option. Have you had a lot of employees take you up on that, or has anyone inquired?
No,
Okay.
that just started on January 1st. But
Okay.
Jim Traveris, who is from Mission Square, he did come, the last time he came, he did discuss that option with people that were here, just so that people know what it is. But if anybody does have any questions about it, it's certainly something that they can inquire with Jim about, and he can give them more detail.
And you are getting some applications in for the finance director position?
We have a few. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. More to come. Mike?
2 things quickly. I understand that you can't ask the employees to verify the reason for the leave, but are you allowed to ask which category it comes to? Is it a neighbor? Is it a family friend? Is it just
We can always ask. We're not prohibited from asking, but if they don't provide any information, we can't do anything about it.
Might be interesting to just ask, just to
I think
know
which
category.
you're right.
And the second thing is on the last, and I understand about confidentiality, but the confidential employee matters. When you say it's a number, are you permitted to say what the number of matters are? Or is it?
No, I don't even know. I couldn't keep track. And that could be
It could
anything.
be multiple. I'm sorry, but it could be multiple matters per employee. So it's not like 10 discrete matters. It could be a particular employee having 3 matters, or
In most cases, it's been discrete,
Okay.
like numbers. And it could be anything from employees not getting along to somebody accusing somebody of something that we have to investigate. But it's never anything I can really discuss. I just always feel like you should know that that's kind of constantly going on in my office.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's sometimes little things and once in a while big things, but
So just for my own curiosity, when you break down, in the union contracts, when you're breaking down, paid time off, are they now separated with a vacation time and a sick time?
Yes.
And was it not before, and
no,
you're
it
being
always
forced?
has been.
It always has
The
been?
union contracts have always, and our employee guide.
Okay,
Our employees get a certain amount of sick time, a certain amount of vacation time, a certain
Okay.
amount of personal time.
so when somebody calls you, they have to say, I'm taking a sick day
Yes.
versus a vacation day?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, because there's
And-
different rules around when you can do one or the other.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
So is the animal control full-time?
Yes.
There.
And I just want to say, I don't really think the sick time is going to be a huge problem here. I don't anticipate our employees taking advantage of it. It's just that it's a hard thing to track, and we have to be able to, we now have to track it too, which is also difficult. If the state comes to us next year and says, how many hours did John Smith earn toward Connecticut paid sick leave and how many did he use, we have to be able to come up with that information. So we have to change the way we're putting things into Munis. The department heads have to do a little bit more work when they're doing their timekeeping. So it's just kind of a pain in the neck. And I understand the thought process behind it, but I think sometimes when people make laws like this, they don't think about the impact that it has on the daily operations of a company or a town.
Terrific. Other questions for Susan? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, Ally, Human Services.
Good morning. First of all, this is my opportunity to thank the town, and many people in this room too, for all the generosity that we had over the holiday season. It just amazes me. I feel like a broken record, but it still is so impressive. We had, how many? 55 seniors and 46 families adopted. And these are from individuals, from book groups, from organizations, and then we also had tons of donations. So no town funds are spent on it. A lot of town time is spent on it in our department, but it's really just heartwarming to see how much people care in our community. As Mindy had mentioned, mental health first aid, we had a session in October. John, you attended. And we still see the interest in that. And Paula and I plan on doing at least 3 a year. We have to do 3 or we lose our certification. We had one last week and had 25 people in it. And it's a nice array of people. There's some town employees. One of the great things is that we had the girls' varsity lacrosse coach participate. We had the boys' varsity wrestling coach participate. We had some of the the trainers at the high school. So of course that's an important target for us, is to get people in the schools and working with our teens. And then, as Mindy mentioned, a new thing that we're doing, so Paula and I each became certified in QPR, which stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. It's a 90-minute training, which is much shorter and doable because the mental health first aid is 8 hours, broken up over 2 days. And this is solely focused on how to deal with someone who might be having suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation, and how to equip people with asking the questions and intervening and feeling as comfortable as you can. We plan on our first one is scheduled for February 13th. You can have up to 30 people in each session. We already have, I think, like 25. Well, half of them are all the school nurses. They're making it mandatory for all the school nurses to come. And I'm looking at you, Marley's newsletter, we get a lot of people for all of these trainings, so it's really effective. It's getting out to a lot of people. So we hope to do this. Paula was a little more overzealous than I was. She wanted to do it like every other week. I'm like, I don't think we can do that. I can't do that. And you only work 10 hours a week, but it's just something that we're really excited about, because I think we're going to be able to reach a lot more people, because it's only a 90-minute commitment. So our first one is February 13th. It's from 3:45 to 5:15. We're going to vary the times. That just worked because the school nurses can come after the school day is done. But we hope to do this monthly. And I know there's various organizations who have already reached out, who are interested in having us do it for them as well. And the nice thing about this is it's cheap, because you only have to pay $3 for the books, and then it's only an hour and a half, whereas mental health first aid runs about $50 a person, which we've been using ARPA money for, just for the books, and then some refreshments because they're there for a long period of time. So, so this is something we're really excited
Just on
about.
that point, if you go to that, it's kind of like the mental health training where you come and out and you're trained in that. You're not certified like you guys are as instructors.
Right, you're considered a gatekeeper, so you're trained to know how to interact with somebody who, and also to notice signs of people who might be in distress and how to interact with them, and really hands-on, like what to say, what to do. So we're excited about this.
And how do
information.
people sign up for this? What should they do?
Email me.
Email you?
Yep,
Okay.
just like mental health first aid.
We know
Where are you holding the classes?
We're going to try to do them in town hall, although I do, thank you, Joe, I don't know, because all the mental health first aid have been at Post 53.
Right.
And I've got the AV stuff down now, right? Thanks to you, Joe. So, but I think we're going to try to hold them here in 206. Our first one is here. Some people have asked, like, if we can go do them in different places, as long as someone can help me with the AV, then
Yep.
we are open to that. But I think we're going to try to do them in town hall as much as possible.
Okay.
Hey, Ally, do you touch on, I think this is a great initiative. I think both are. We've heard lots of great things on the first aid. But do you touch at all in these programs on if I'm helping somebody and things don't go as I had hoped, what resources are available to that person giving some advice?
Yeah, it's very specific, especially in the mental health first aid. You know, in our last session, it was like, okay, so what if you do this? How do you respond? And so we give them suggestions, and they also have books that they bring home with them with even more information. But yeah, we do give options. So if someone doesn't want to get help, what can you do? And
Yeah.
it depends on the scenario.
I'm just thinking that the people that are taking these courses, what benefit or how do we help them with their own mental health if they had been participating and things didn't go as planned?
Well, one thing we do talk about in both trainings is self-care and,
Right.
and
Okay.
about taking care of yourself, and also
Perfect.
that we're there as a resource, Paula
Okay.
and I,
Great.
before and after. And we also have, as we mentioned at the training last week, on the town website under Human Services, we have a list of all kinds of mental health resources, and we still do have that list of providers that we update every 2 months, although I was told, I think I'm 2.5 months now, of providers in town who are taking, who are currently taking new clients, and we have the links to their
Yeah,
websites.
that's a great service, really.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, the last thing, and Bobby might talk about this too, is hoarding. When it rains, it pours. It's like, you know, we've had 3 I think it was the last quarter. Yeah, it was 3 last quarter. Well, 2 of them started before then. One couple has been placed in Greenwich, so they are off our radar, and they're in not assisted living, but a senior home. Another one, the family was involved, and now we'll just keep monitoring her. And then a new one that we just are in. Luckily, 2 out of 3 of them had family involved, because that is instrumental. It makes our life a lot easier. But all 3 happen to be seniors that are low income, so we did have to help them financially. I wish we still had ARPA funds, but I know we don't really want to have to. It was complicated, but it was nice to have that extra pool of money. But so once we do get them to the point where they make progress, then the fire marshal's office and my office, we monitor them. And most of the people who are in this situation want that help, right? They say to keep on top of it, because it's a compulsive disorder and it's a mental health disorder, so it needs ongoing support. And you have to be it's very embarrassing for them, so you have to be very sensitive, but they're very time consuming as well. So.
Questions?
Thank you for all you do, Ally.
No, that's terrific. Mental health training was fantastic. Again, I've plugged this a few times. You have a chance. If you haven't signed up for it, it was very effective. I learned a lot, so thank you.
Thank you. I think the next one will probably be in May.
Good. Good. George, information technology.
Hey guys, good morning. Just a couple of the major issues that we had addressed. The servers that we had in both the police department and here in town hall, they were replaced because of various reasons. Other than that, if you guys have any other questions.
Yeah, a couple things. So I know there's now IT with the police department that's in residence in the building or managing
Yes.
here directly. Is the town IT and all that, is all that coordinated with the police, or you guys?
We work with him, I work with him very closely.
Okay, so it's pretty tight. in
It's
terms
still
of-
it's very much the same, except that now with the assistance of him, it makes it very easy for me, essentially.
Because you got somebody there. to
And
be
they've
on
got
top of
someone
that
to
stuff.
always go to
And
directly,
that model's been
immediately.
effective. It's been effective.
Yeah, it's been working well. At least we can see.
Okay, great. And there was some kind of problem where I know Town Hall was interrupted for file access into the file server.
That's the replacement of the server.
So that was not a problem, it was just server replacement.
It was a server replacement, but there are other issues that we're still having to deal with, and I've been able to get around it for now.
Okay,
But we're still trying to trace why it keeps dropping a lot of the files, a lot of the drive mapping.
okay, and this is still going on now?
It's still going on. I've been able to put something in place where they just click on an icon on their desktop, and it replaces it.
Okay, so is anyone losing any files, or?
No,
they're
no one's
just-
losing any files. It's just a matter of just dropping of the actual network drives.
Okay, and that's still ongoing? You don't
It's still
quite have that?
ongoing, and I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any initiatives planned for the next 6 months in terms of renewals, other than simply laptop, desktop replacement?
I know that major one is what you just mentioned.
Right.
You know, we're going to try and get a lot of remote, equipment in place so that people have the option of taking things back with them back and forth from home or not. Obviously, it's always going to be security is the major issue, because that's always pending for everything that we're doing.
Okay. Questions for George? George, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, next up is Mr. Ginsburg, land use.
Morning all. We'll start with planning and zoning. The highlights are at the top of the report. You've all heard a lot about the Thorndale Circle proposal to redevelop a portion of the office park. Planning and zoning will be deciding that matter either next week or early February. You can see that tonight there'll be a hearing on the Pear Tree Beach Park Improvement Project. So that's going to be heard in this room, 7 o'clock tonight. And the Plan of Conservation and Development will be getting kicked off next Tuesday, the 28th, first meeting with the consultant and the town. And we hope to have that project complete in about a year and a half or so. Regarding the rest of the report, which also relates to the building side of things, seasonally, this December is always a little quieter because of the holidays and the weather. So you'll see that permits are generally lower, down, but you could see John Vaccaro's project in Norotan Heights and David Genovese's project in downtown. They're all moving, they're all out there every day. The building officials are out there at those sites. The other big project is BMW, who's moving along, and of course the 3 schools, as you know, also moving along daily. Happy to answer any questions you have about the report.
Thanks for this. How many of the 175 units at Thorndale Circle would be affordable? I know it's...
I think it's 14%. I think I was reading something about 22, 25, somewhere around there.
Okay. And are those at a particular income standard?
I think it's it's about 80% of state median, but I'd have to double check that.
Okay. And then can you remind me in the approvals tables that you have here, so granted, deny, withdraw, what's an administrative approval?
Oh, you mean on page
Well,
EPC?
on page 2, it'll
Yeah.
say for EPC, yeah.
The Environmental Protection Commission has a provision in their regulations where if the EPC staff member, in this case Rick Telemelli, believes that, yeah, technically it needs a permit because they're doing work within 50 feet, but it's so minor that he can just approve it administratively, he reports those back to the board, and they can authorize such.
So these are things that he's approved, but simply reporting back to, I got it.
Yep.
Okay. And then just your comment about number of permits. So this kind of gives over the last few months, I'm just kind of curious if you compare individual months back, say, 2 or 3 years, any concerning trends with just the number of permits or?
I think they've been down recently, but it's not always the entire picture, because you could think of, say, John Vaccaro's building or David Genovese's building. Those are multi-story buildings with multiple inspections. They take about a year to build, and that number gets treated as the same as someone's bathroom renovation. It's purely a number.
Okay.
So while we may have 103 permits, the full picture can be looked at in conjunction with the type of permits.
There are permits, and then there are permits.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay. Questions for Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy, when I was looking at the permit fees, I was just, is it possible to do a year over year on these? It's great to see the monthly fluctuation, but I think it would be helpful to see a year over year, but I don't want to,
On the number of permits.
on the permit fees.
Okay, sure, we can put that in the next report.
Okay.
Those are all the questions I had. Anybody else have questions? Okay. I think that's it. Jeremy,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I appreciate it. Okay. All right. Next up, Jen Fava, Parks and Rec.
Thank you. So as you see, we have a couple of projects, Weed Beach and Pear Tree improvement projects that are going to be part of the capital request process. So you'll be seeing those. We are working on planning some tours for some of the elected officials, so you can get an idea of what those projects entail.
I think it's February 1st. Is that? I think
That's the date we were looking at. It
Yeah.
hasn't been confirmed with me, so that's.
I'll try to get that confirmed today, but just to be clear, anybody's invited to come to these tours. It's primarily for elected officials in the decision process, but certainly all of us, and any board that gets a quorum will just convene a special meeting and warn it, so everybody could have a chance to go and see, look, feel, touch, ask questions sort of on site for both those projects, and I think that'll be a helpful thing. So please come to that if you can. Anyway, go ahead, sorry.
Yep, that's good. As was just mentioned, the Pear Tree project is going before the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight. The idea is, once we get approvals for that, we'll be going out to bid, so that as we continue through this process, we'll have a true cost for that project. A couple other projects that are actually underway right now is our Baker Park playground replacement. The equipment has arrived, and the old playground has been taken out, so as soon as the weather gets a little bit warmer, the last couple weeks are kind of putting a little hitch in that, but that'll get moving, and it should be a fairly quick process. Also, the same thing with the Holohan backstop behind Town Hall. They started with that removal, so that'll be picking up again as soon as the weather breaks. Our fall 2024 and our winter 25 program participation numbers have been up over the last year, which is nice. So clearly people are still interested in the programs that we're offering. We have continued to see a decline in our paddle usage numbers. It tends to be with the weekdays and weekend afternoons. We think this is, if you look at the trend, we had a high peak with COVID, and it's been slowly trending downward. So I think more people back in offices, not having as much time during those weekdays, as well as I think there are also there's more indoor pickleball facilities, so I think that's taking some people away as well. In terms of events, we've held a couple, but one of our biggest was on December 7th, an old-fashioned holiday at Tilly Park, which was really well attended, and people seemed to like it. We added a live ice sculpture demo, carving demo, and some vendors, and people seemed to like that. Our maintenance staff are currently, we've gotten all of our winter equipment ready, and they've been out dealing with snow and ice, and now they're going through and doing all their annual maintenance on all of the equipment, making sure we're all ready for spring. And maintaining all the things such as our lifeguard chairs, our picnic tables, and all that. They clean, sand, stain, all that. They have also spent some time on Great Island. They did some work grinding some of the stumps, cleaning up the stone dust track and the sand pit. as well as removing some of the leaf piles that were created. Right now, we're busy getting all of our spring and summer information together and programs ready, working on that brochure, which will be going out over the next few weeks. That program registration is set for Wednesday, February 26th. So hopefully by the end of this week, next week, all the program offerings will be available to see online, and we'll be putting out an email blast to let people know they can start looking at that information. Also, for those in the public that might be watching this, we are currently accepting applications for lifeguards. We've already reached out. We do expect to have some turnover, so we're accepting those. And then just some of our upcoming events. January 31st, we have a new event, Some Plus One Night, which is for some of the younger children. It's just going to be activities. And then February 7th, we have the daughter duo dance. They'll both be taking place here at Town Hall in the gym. And then we're already getting ready and gearing up for May 18th, which is Adventure Day, with the Friends of Selleck's Woods and the Darien Land Trust. So other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, just one thing I know that hasn't been done yet, but to highlight that you've proposed in your budget for next year is the dredging of Tilly Pond. I know that's been a concern for a lot of folks. It's improved a lot from some of the initiatives that you guys have put in place, but that's going to be dredged next year, assuming it gets through the process, so I applaud that. Everybody will welcome that. I just had kind of one general question. You've been in your seat now for a bit. What are the top sort of 1, 2, 3 things you might highlight that you've changed in terms of how you manage the department, initiatives that you had, staff deployment, anything you'd like to highlight, to comment on?
I think it's still, because we're so seasonal, it is still trying to get a feel for how each season runs. I think trying to bring people into the process has been something, certainly with the budget process, that was one of the things. They said, okay, so what has your role been in this before? And everyone kind of looked at me with a blank stare. They really weren't brought into the process. So I tried to do that, get some feedback, and I think we'll be making it, getting more input as well as I move forward with that. And I'm still trying to figure out a little bit how certain things have been established or determined, whether it's setting our fees or some of the budget, things like that. So I think it's trying to get a lot of that lined up, quantifiable, trying to make things so that there aren't so many gray areas and make it a little bit easier so there isn't the opportunity for individual, shouldn't say decision-making, but the onus there's a bunch of things that I think need to have some more policy in place, have things a little bit more more in line, so it doesn't matter who's sitting in the seat, that people are treated the same way.
Questions?
So with that, Jen, I remember when we were interviewing you, you mentioned software and program fees, and I see we're looking at software. Are you looping back to program fees with that software? Is that what we're
Yes, that's
at?
part of
Okay.
it. So that it's part of one of the capital requests
Right.
is for a financial sustainability strategy. And that is a big process that is kind of led through along with the commission, setting the policy, how we want to look at things, how much cost recovery we want to see and we should be getting, and it will help set up and actually indicate, are we reaching those goals or not? So then we can make adjustments to fees.
Okay, and then I have
Yep.
how do we, what's the process for requesting a porta potty, for instance, at Baker?
Yes, so I know you had reached out, we've talked about that. Our thought is, right now, we pull them in this time of year, in most cases. So you can just reach out to the department. I know we have had one there in the past, and then we've had complaints, so they've been removed. So that is something that we'll take another look at come this spring when it's time to put them out.
Perfect.
Yep.
The only thing I just want to put in your head, and I mentioned it to Jim last time we met, is when you're deciding on programming and you're putting your catalog together and you're looking for new programs, it would be wonderful if we can partner as the Mental Health Task Force to look at some programming that addresses mental health and community, and by that I mean things like healthy eating. And I know the senior center does a lot of that with seniors, but I don't think we have enough of that for our youths. Healthy sleeping, healthy eating, meditation, that sort of thing. Sports always seems to be a focus, and I love that, but there's that second component that is, sort of the mental health. So when you're doing programming and looking for new ideas, I would love to kind of partner with you
Great.
to look at that sort of thing.
Great.
Terrific. Other questions for Jen?
Thank you. One easy one, Jen.
Yep.
You sold out the Sun Night.
Yes.
With 100, and your daughter takes up to 250. Is it at a different location?
No, they're both here. The daughter duo dance, because it's a dance, it's got a lot less stuff
Got it.
kind of happening, so they're going to be spread out with games and different equipment and things like that, so we don't think we'll have as much space. It is something we've talked about maybe doing in the future because of the demand, something at a different time of year where we can do it outside. So we'd have a bit more space and wouldn't be so confined.
And people can call you if they want to volunteer.
Yep,
Okay.
they can speak with Cassie on that.
Other questions for Jennifer? Thank you.
Great, thanks.
All righty. Next up, Mr. Gentile, Public Works.
Good morning. Just to quickly touch and catch you up on our top five, the Gorms Pond Dam. They had their pre-con meeting last week and looking to start mid-February on the work down there. Still targeting the October of this year to finish. Hanson Road Bridge is underway. They have the culverts in place and east side wing walls put in place. There's some work to do to get the west ones included. We were shooting for a mid-February opening of the roadway, or at least some type of traffic on that road. With this weather, we're going to have to push that back a little bit to maybe March 1st, tentative. Our sanitary sewer I&I program, they just wrapped up the phase 2 and just started doing the design for the phase 3 construction / rehab. That'll probably run us about $1.6 million. The sanitary sewer force main break that happened in December. We've gone back now so far. We've done all the cleanup down there. We are looking at investigating some additional pipe repairs and some hardening of those force mains. We've been meeting with our consultant to go over some types of methods, whether it be a new pipe, relining the pipe, fortifying the pipe of some kind. We're doing that right now. And finally, the Rings End Road Bridge, that riprap work and scour protection was finished a couple weeks ago. The Gorms Pond Dam tide gates are now closed, and the kids are ice skating.
They are ice skating.
And any other questions you may have for me?
Just wanted to thank your team for the incredible work done during the storm. The other night, I heard the plows go by so many times on our street. It was wonderful. The next morning, I have a nurse as a child, and so was able to get her out, and the roads were great. So thank you very much. Your team worked really hard.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Everybody was right on the ball, and even when I pulled up here early this morning, while they were still working, clearing stuff out, so I appreciate all that. I guess a couple of questions. One of them is just, I know we're working on the consultant for the sidewalk process we want to work on this year, so let me know when we can talk about that.
I just started about a week ago putting the scope together for an RFQ.
If I can help with that, let me know.
Absolutely. Let me get some bullet points together so you take a look at it.
Okay. And just on the food scrap recycling program, I know Kathy Finnegan and the advisory committee on sustainability, those guys have taken up an interest in that, would like to help push that, not just for the town, but with the schools as well. So I may connect with her just to make sure she's tuned into all of the work that's going on with you guys, just to make sure all that's on the same page.
Always been very supportive. They've started it, they've always continued it, and you can see it's still trending up.
Yeah, which I think is a great initiative, particularly for the schools, if we can get that going. Those were my only questions for Public Works. Anybody have any questions for Ed?
Couple things with regard to Norotan Avenue and West. Number one, I know that a lot of the laborers, I guess, who are doing the interior work there now are parking on Norotan Avenue there by Hollow Tree. And
Across from the train station?
across from the train station. Do you have an idea of, number one, how long they're going to be parking there? I know I've heard from other commuters who are, dropping people off at the train station and they're kind of looping back around, and those cars really reduce the, the size of available space. And also with regard to improvements to that intersection at Hollow Tree and the road in anticipation of that project coming online and the increased traffic flow.
I did notice the cars along the side. I did take a look at the lane width right now. It's marginal. And with the new work that needs to be done, which is the streetscape work on that roadway, as well as the intersection improvements and widening the curves that are there, which all need to be done before they get their CO, if I believe. I don't want to speak for Jeremy, but I think that's what we have set up, make sure all the traffic moves well before they open up. I think I can go back and take another look and see if it does need to be with maybe some no parking signs. I did give them some options about parking in other locations, but hopefully when they get their site work done, it'll open up some more spaces for their contractors to park.
And also more specifically, because I've seen this myself at certain times, and they all tend to arrive obviously at the same time. And what happens is when the laborers come out and then they're walking into that property, they're walking out on the street side. So, and obviously it's a pretty finite period of time, but it's also still dark, and you have people who are zipping around that street trying to get to and from the train, and then it is a reduced size, and then you have the laborers who are walking on the street side, so it's even less.
I think you're going to end up see happening, because they are going to try to open, it sounds like August, so open up that school in August of sometime. That's what I've heard. They're going to be taking down those fences and working on the curbing, sidewalk in that area, street, the lights, trees, and so on. I'm going to end up taking that parking away from that until they're finished.
Yeah, and all those
Hopefully see an
traffic lights would be reset and resequenced as part of that effort. So
the intersection at Hollow Tree and the railroad station, Hollow Tree and Heights, and Hollow Tree and West, all will be put in
resequenced and
synchronized.
These will be with cameras as opposed to wire loops and all this new stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
And what we've done, we piggybacked with that project. We're going to do West Avenue and Hollow Tree along with the other two with them, and make a contribution for the whole project to be done at once.
Great. Okay. Other questions for Ed?
Ed, quick, on sewer for non-compliance, have you actually, has the sewer commission actually fined people, or has it actually occurred?
We haven't had to yet. We seem to get people, when we notify them they are going to be fined, to become compliant.
Okay, here's an easy one. You really relocated the fish for Hanson?
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing?
I put my top guy on that. Darren took care of that.
Okay, that's good. Full service.
And
Love
made
it.
sure that those fish were relocated according
it.
to the DEP.
Okay.
And I would be willing to pay a ticket price or something like that. Is there a video of Darren? No?
We kept that under wraps and low key, but yeah, we're full service at DPW.
That could be qualified. That might be enough to pay for some of these flooding projects. I'm just, okay. No other questions for Ed? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Susan and Kara, registrars.
Good morning.
So we had a very successful, election season. While it wasn't technically in the fiscal year, the presidential preference primary, we did run for a calendar year, essentially, 3 electoral events, all with early voting, ranging from 4 days to 14 days, which significantly increased both our training, the number of people we had to train, and the number of staffing hours we had to recruit and staff for. So it was a monumental undertaking, and we were really happy with how successful it was and how popular early voting was. We heard repeatedly from residents in the town how much they liked it, how much they didn't expect to like it, but they really loved it. We have to give huge thanks to George and others in town, Public Works, who without their assistance and technical expertise, we would not have been able to pull it off, in addition to our deputies and everyone else in Town Hall who significantly added their expertise and work to help us pull it off. We'll be getting new tabulators, and the CVRS system for the state will be also revised and replaced. So that will mean more training of our early voting poll workers, who will have to learn CVRS, which is the state central voter registry system. So it'll be another big year of having to learn CVRS, the new system, ourselves, and having to understand the new tabulators ourselves. The state has told us that we'll be getting 26 tabulators. We currently have 13. We've been told by the UConn professors who did the analysis to determine how many tabulators each town should get and which kinds, that because of they're slower, because they take an image of the ballots, Susan and I both strongly feel that we need a medium speed tabulator, which we currently are not getting because of central counting. So we count our absentee ballots, our same-day registration, sorry, not our same-day, our absentee and our early voting ballots in a central counting location. 60+% of our ballots were counted in the central counting location. So because it takes an image of the ballots, and because, which I don't think most people know this, our elections are significantly more complex, and our ballots are more complex than most towns in the state, because we run a local election every year. Unlike other towns, only 3 other towns in the state do that. So because of RTM and because of our staggered Board of Ed, we run a local election every year. Most towns do not do that. So we have significantly more offices on our ballots than other towns, and we have write-ins every year, unlike other towns. So our ballots are almost always 2-sided. Sometimes we have 3 pages. So that means because they're taking an image, it will be much slower. So Susan and I both strongly feel, and we'll be advocating to the Secretary of State's office, that we receive a medium speed tabulator to speed up the processing time of counting our ballots, both in the poll sites and at our central counting location. We also got audited this year again. So our central counting location was considered a district. That was the site they picked to be audited. We are very grateful to the UConn Voter Center. We chose to do the audit not by hand, but using the equipment and the expertise of the UConn Voter Center, which despite, it was much faster, but it still took, 9 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours?
We were there, our day was 14 hours and other people were there for 2 hours, but we had to count 8,300 ballots. So we're not in the automatic receipt of the medium speed machine. We have to request it. So we're going to send, I'm sorry that we didn't get this together in time to send it to you in the report, because we just learned at the Secretary of State's meeting that we can request this machine. So we're going to put together something and send it to you, because we just received the information from the manufacturer, ES&S, who we've contracted with, the state has, and now we know the numbers, and now we know what we need to do in order to procure one of those. Hopefully we can. It is not a given. There are a finite number of them, and we may qualify, we may not. So we'll be getting back to you about that.
Anything else? Just from my end, kudos to the 2 of you, to Tracy and Corey, your deputies, to the many volunteers, more than 100 that actually came together to try and help ensure a seamless election process. I had a chance to visit all the polling sites during the election, on election day, as well as visit with the many candidates who stood in front of town hall during early voting. And that's one of the tough things about early voting, is because there's only one polling place. If you're going to campaign, you kind of need to be there all day. And I know, talking to Tracy Morrow, I think I was there every day, all day, for 10 days of early voting. 14 days. That's a lot. Anyway, but it a huge collective effort to get done what you guys did get done, and I'm just very appreciative of that, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I add one thing?
Please.
So I was at a meeting recently where Matt Blumenthal, who's one of the state reps, he's no longer our state rep, as you know, was there, and we were talking about, someone was talking about early voting and asking questions. The Registrars Association is getting together and working on this right now to recommend shortening some of the length of early voting going forward. So we'll still have 14 days in November for the municipal election, but many towns are protesting, smaller towns especially, who say that it's really cost prohibitive and it's not necessary. So we'll advise you as that goes along, those meetings. Yes.
Yeah, interestingly, I'd heard that early voting, which had been marketed as a way to improve turnout, the turnout was no different. It just allowed people to vote more conveniently, but it did not actually change turnout.
We had a smaller turnout in this election.
Yeah, that's true. Darien's turnout was slightly less, despite the fact that it was a presidential election.
Yes, I think it was statewide, yes.
Are you required to do 14 days early voting during primaries as well?
No.
Yes.
We have 7, except for the presidential is 4. But I think they'll keep that. But originally, the registrars had requested 10.
Yes.
Secretary Thomas had, but because they were looking at other states who really don't compare to ours, because we are small town elections and those are regional and county. So they were thinking 20 days in this state and 30 days in this state, but they're largely mail-in voting. It's a whole different system. So they're, I think, hopefully taking a look at it after we've gone through a cycle of early voting to see how we can work it out to possibly make some of the time shorter. It was a very expensive election, and we would like to get back to numbers that are a little more, what we think are more reasonable in the future.
If you looked at the, if you looked at the peaks over the 14 days, did you see the 7 days closer to the election, you had met much more traffic, or was it pretty evenly spread out over the whole 14 days?
We were pretty evenly spread out. I think for midterms and presidential, we'll probably stick with the 14. Well, don't you think they'll probably make us stick with the 14? I don't know. But I mean, I think people took advantage of it, and it was a positive thing. But for a municipal election, when the turnout is basically generally low, I don't know that we need 14 days of early voting. We'll see. We'll see what they come up with.
I think they'll want to keep the 2 weekends, so it'll be
Maybe 10 days.
a battle. Yeah, I think it'll be 10 days, which seems right. What we also worried about, I mean, cost obviously was an issue. We initially thought we were overstaffing, having 2 lines, but we wanted to ensure, right, we didn't have long lines given the tight space and given the lack, right, we wanted to ensure that there was like a smooth and ability to keep people moving. We needed the 2 lines. It ended up being the exact right amount of staffing. But I think ongoing, people got sick. So because they were working hard, you know, it was busy. People took it very seriously, so they were internalizing stress. And we did have quite a few poll workers get sick. And then we were worried about being understaffed for election day because many of those people who worked early voting were also moderators or our ARs on election day, and to lose them, we were very worried about it. So we think 14 days, if it was 10 days, not only would there be a cost benefit, but I think in terms of poll worker recruitment and making sure, like, and being cognizant of the stress and wear and tear on people. We don't want people getting sick. So I think 10 days gives people adequate rest in between, and it gives us better time to prepare for election day. We only had a day, and so I don't think there was a single day we took off. I mean, I think I worked 48 hours almost continuously, the day of the election, the day afterwards, and the day before. We had to prepare voter lists, get all the materials prepared, swear people in, get people to come in, get the poll sites set up, and we had 24 hours to do that.
So I think it's the consensus, oh, sorry, Karen. I think it's a consensus that that is not enough time. So the legislature is looking at that, and we're hoping that early voting will end on Friday from now on and give us the entire weekend and Monday to get ready for the election. It just wasn't enough time. And it's across the board, registrars have come back with the same comments.
Feedback.
Other questions for him?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right, Beth, Senior Center.
Good morning. I think I'm going to put some of my top 5 together. Basically that we went through a period of probably about 6 months understaffed, and we didn't miss a beat. We had as many programs as we would ever have. There was no specials that were canceled, and that's due to the staff. I have to thank my staff publicly and the half a dozen or so volunteers that really believe in the program, work hard for it, as hard as the employees do. So I want to thank them. We're looking at more of a reorganization of the office. At this point, our program specialist, who's been with us since August, is still, it's a lot of learning in the process, so we're using our billing receptionist to do really more of those kinds of detailed requirements, and taking a little bit off the program specialist as she learns the entire operation. As noted, we really are running programs that are for mind, body, and spirit, and we do that pretty much on an even basis because we see the importance of, as people age, all of us as we age, that we need to be looking at the entire package, not just one part of us, but the entire package, because that builds resilience. And also because we're so dedicated to community connection and all the other departments that are here that do such an amazing job, it's important for us to also always be a communicator of those things as well. I'm going to be giving a little talk to the DMA tomorrow, and basically my theme is it's not your grandmother's senior center. We really are geared toward our Older Americans Act, and that makes us a focal point. And the focal point is supposed to be able to tell people about everything that goes on in their town, but also everything for themselves to age as well as they can possibly age. We are seeing more of folks come into the center. I didn't include the number, I don't know why I didn't. We have right now 1,427 Darien residents. We're holding at 225 non-resident members. So there's a little bit of, when you see the amount of people participating, it's the non-residents that have gone up, our residents have gone up, our non-residents have gone down because of the 25% cap. So, and on average of those people, you'll see in my report how many people actually are coming into the center unduplicated. That was another number that I added so that you can see how many people actually come into the center each quarter. And there are folks that come to the center every day. There are folks that come to the center once a month. There are folks that come to the center a couple times a year. It all depends on what they're looking for, and that's why we keep trying to evolve the program more and more from even suggestions that are made or from what we're seeing as trends out there as well. We are the evening program success for the caregivers, a sandwich generation. I have to thank Allie for messaging that out, and for Marley as well, and for the Human Services Planning Council. There were close to 30 younger caregivers that are actually caregiving folks that are between their ages of 40 and 50 that are having cognitive issues that are right local in our area. We're putting together another one with a panel in early spring. We're going to message that back out again. The caregiver support group continues to grow. I continue to get early morning phone calls from folks that are dealing with taking care of their parent. Many people are trying to keep their loved ones at home as long as they possibly can. We're very lucky also to have At Home in Darien, here in Darien too, for some of those ancillary things that help keep people at home. But we also need to be able to support these folks. We're really looking at, in a senior center, supporting 4 decades. So I know 55 is a little young, but for sure, 65 and above, we have people that we are definitely serving. The younger folks are really the caregivers. So at this point, I'm looking at opening up another caregiver segment for meeting for folks that are caregiving, that are children, caregiving their parent, as opposed to spouses, because it's completely different where they are as well. And we're getting more of a request for that too. This need to message the senior center's program and mission and purpose, that's pretty much the little spiel I'm giving you right now. That is, it's important that we understand that a senior center isn't a one-note factor, it's an orchestra. And in that orchestra, there's a lot going on, but it's really important that we keep it conducted so that all of the avenues that are necessary for people to age resiliently and healthy are being done by us. So this is a very big commitment that we have. We're very lucky our partners in Fairfield County, the senior center, other senior center directors that we meet regularly, and we all have a very, very high standard of collaboration and doing our best. It's friendly competition, so.
Terrific. Well, just kudos from me. I had a chance to attend both the Thanksgiving and the Christmas lunch, and just to see the turnout and fun people and different presentations, even the send-off for Kate when she left over at the Senior Center. It was just a lot of fun when you go over to the Senior Center and participate in those programs, so thank you. It's great.
Most welcome.
Questions for Beth?
Now, Beth, I just got to say, you do such an awesome job as the conductor of this orchestra. So,
I'm very lucky to be conductor. Keep my hearing.
Send that lady a baton.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, 2 more. Let's see, Ms. Harkins, tax collector.
I feel like I'm the caboose after Beth. So just the major highlights from my report are, as of the end of the year, tax collection, the collection rate was on par with the year before. I do continue to see online payments increase year over year, and as I'm looking at this, it did increase another almost 5 million in 24 versus 23. I think next time I might put like a percentage, just so you can see that, because I think that's sort of important as well. There is a file that was uploaded to the website that includes all tax payment history during calendar year 24. Our residents find that useful when they're filing their state and federal income taxes. That file can be accessed by, if you're on the top taskbar, how do I, and then you click on find, and then tax payment history is the last option, and then you click on proceed to cite I agree, and then once you get to the search page, you can search by either last name or list number. On a positive note, the supplemental motor vehicle billing that we did in January was just shy of 805,000. We had budgeted 675,000. And the reason that that figure had been brought down was because it was a reval year. We knew the mill rate was going to drop, and Kate suggested that we kind of lower that, to be conservative. So I'm happy to say we did exceed that budgeted figure. And the other item is the prorate tax bill, which is prorated real estate. That also was favorable to budget, and there was actually an additional billing that I was able to send out. So that figure for the year is actually going to be just shy of 197,000, which is also favorable to budget by about 97,000. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Just one is on your start note there at the back of page 2, where it says due to an acquisition of the bank, there was $1.5 million escrow payment for taxes that were not paid till the following month, and that resulted in an understatement of your collection rate. So I don't know if these collection rates are religiously calculated to be just specifically what cash was received through that time period, or whether an adjustment for something that's late like that makes sense, just so that when we're looking at these collection rates, they're apples to apples, and it's not affected by some sort of random event like that.
Okay.
Because if you included that up here, is it correct that 62.46% on page 1 would in fact have been 64.5. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And so if you have delayed payments like that kind of in every year, and then it kind of makes sense. But if you have a one-time anomaly where, for reasons outside your control, it just happened to be delayed into January, but the reality is we have collected that, it might be interesting to just take that into account so you're not skewing those numbers. Because if you include the $1.5 million, then that's actually an improvement in collection rates, best one since 2021, correct?
Yes. And you know what, that's why I footnoted it, and it was because of the acquisition between Peoples and M&T. That, you know, they had different policies in terms of when they paid the escrow.
Which is totally fine. I might suggest a flip in your footnote, which is to say you'd report the 64.5, because you did collect those funds, and even though there was
Actually,
that...
I didn't. I didn't collect those funds.
Well,
they were delayed.
They didn't come until
It was what...
Well, I'm sorry, you're missing my point, which is, as a technical matter, they were not collected as of December 31st,
Yes.
okay? But that was because it was an anomaly. It was coincidentally delayed because of this bank acquisition. And because we didn't collect those funds when they were expected, it's skewed this collection rate. So you could look at the collection rate and say, wow, it's 63, 65, 63, 62, where our collection rate is declining, and that's down 3 percentage points since 2021. You would interpret that as, okay, this is not a good trend. But in fact, that's not true. There just happened to be this issue that delayed this into January, so we're actually okay on the collection rate. So you might, because when I read this, my suspicion was that there was a problem until I got into the fine print and said, well, no, actually, there's not a problem. I'm just suggesting to make that a little bit more clear up front that says, look, there is not a problem. It's true that a piece of this was delayed, but we are on par for collections, correct?
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, enough said. Other points? Thank you, as always.
Thank you.
We appreciate you collecting money for us. Okay, very last, absolutely not least, Mr. Cameron, TV 79.
Good morning, and apologies about our late start this morning. Coldest day of the year, car issues, so we're working on that. One industry trend I wanted to add that was not included here as potentially impacting cable operations in the state as well too. Verizon is coming in and is going to be taking over Frontier. That's not going to affect our relationship with Altice Optimum, but whatever they do there may have some impetus to change what Altice wants to do, but we're keeping an eye on that as well too. I was in front of this board just 2 weeks ago, and I've summarized what I presented to you there in terms of our accomplishments. Last year, we have met the TV 79 Advisory Board with Mr. Zagrodzky, and we have reinvigorated our efforts on a number of different projects, including a review of best practices of similar government stations here in the Northeast. We're going to be talking extensively about AI, what it does, what it doesn't do, how accurate it is, and we are going to be initiating some new marketing efforts, because the biggest challenge we have, this morning notwithstanding, is not producing programming. It's finding eyeballs and letting people know what's out there so that they can watch the portions of the programs that they're most interested in, that they're affected by. So we're going to make sure that people know that TV 79 is out there and that we're doing all we can to bring town government into their living rooms. So happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Yeah, a couple of things. So that board meeting that I went to, that was one of the most interesting discussions I think we've had just in town generally in a while, particularly the back and forth on AI and its implications for town programming. So if you've not watched that meeting, put it on 1.5x playback speed and take a look. It was, I thought, a very interesting discussion. I also applaud just the general reinvigoration of the TV 79 board, which we've reappointed today, by the way. So
thank you.
So as you know, I see that Mike Wheeler and you have come up with an AI compilation of highlights from all meetings in town. I've not had a chance to look at that. I think that's an excellent initiative, but on my list today is to go through that. And obviously the AI is improving every day, but it could get to the point where something like that could be very useful for folks who don't have a lot of time but want to keep track of the highlights. This would be akin to a newscast that's got the highlights from 10 baseball games. That's a great way to at least get the top line messages from those meetings. Absolutely applaud that. When I have some time this week, I'll take a look at what Mike has sent. I think that's an absolutely terrific initiative.
That.
So kudos. I'm looking forward to 2025. It's going to be super exciting. Questions for Jim? Thank you, sir.
Great.
We appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, that wraps up our department head review for today. I appreciate everyone coming. Thank you very much, and we will see you next quarter. Could I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor, and we are adjourned at 9:56.
Everybody's got to sign these.
Can I ask?
Yeah.